So Bo used to tell us, you get better or you get worse, but you don't stay the same, right? So in other words, you got to continue to look for ways to try and improve. I also remember one of our high school coaches, he gave a quote that said, what you give is gone, but what you hold back is lost forever, right? So in other words, give it your best every day. We need to try. And because if you're sitting there procrastinating, holding back, you're never going to get to that place where hopefully you can realize some just tremendous healthy benefits from doing this.
That's Marc Ramirez, one half of the very inspirational duo Chickpea Bean. And this is episode 5 of the Bravest Podcast. So is it possible for a 305-pound carnivore football player to reverse course on all of his chronic diseases and ultimately change the course of his family's life forever? Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of the Bravest Podcast. I'm Craig, and on today's show, we have the duo Marc and Kim Ramirez. Now, Marc grew up in Texas with 4 brothers and 3 sisters. His father abandoned his family when Marc was just 8 years old and left his mother struggling to raise an army of children on her own. Now, to say football is big in Texas is a gross understatement, and after playing through his childhood, Marc rose up and earned a football scholarship to the University of Michigan, where he played right guard for the legendary coach Bo Schembechler. Now, Marc and his teammates ultimately went on to play in 3 Rose Bowls and 1 Hall of Fame Bowl. Now, to fuel his 305-pound frame and the countless hours of training that football required, Marc required a significant amount of food intake. And by his own account, he was quite fond of steak and potatoes, usually more of the steak. But once the chapter closed on Marc's football career, his dietary habits really didn't change much, and his body started to fight against him. Now, this came in the form of weight gain, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and a host of other lifestyle diseases, all requiring enough medications to line a pharmacy shelf. And what Marc feared was that he was firmly on the same path as his mother and siblings. And just to give you an idea of what Marc's family has experienced, his mom underwent kidney transplant and unfortunately passed in 2002 after more than 33 years of fighting diabetes. Sadly, his brother David passed from pancreatic cancer just 2 months later. And Marc's sister Carol has struggled with type 2 diabetes for many years. His twin brother Joe struggles with type 2 diabetes and has already suffered a heart attack. Marc's younger sister Sandra struggles with type 2 diabetes. And Martin, Marc's youngest sibling, he has type 2 diabetes. He's had a pancreas and a kidney transplant. He's also legally blind, and he also had his right leg amputated. Martin undergoes dialysis 3 times a week and is on a whopping 25 medications. Now, Marc was confronted with the very real possibility that he was predestined to suffer the same exact outcomes as other members of his family. Now, I'm not going to give away the entire story here, but the conversation that follows with Marc and his wife, Kim, truly demonstrates what we're capable of as humans. We cover Marc's slow decline into illness, and then how Kim's support helped him work his way back to health, and ultimately his ability to thrive and help others get on their own health track. I love talking to Marc and his wife Kim simply because it's clear they really adore each other, and their story is a truly inspirational one, filled with hardship, it's filled with love, and a work ethic you might associate with a lifelong athlete. Now, this is a special interview, and I'm excited to share it with you. So sit back, relax, and listen to my conversation with Marc and Kim Ramirez, also known as Chickpea Bean. So, look, I really appreciate you guys being here today, Marc and Kim. I've been reading a lot about you guys, and I'm super excited for our conversation, so thanks.
Oh, we're excited
We're
too.
excited
Thanks for
too.
having us.
Thanks.
Awesome. So this is a special episode for me for a number of reasons. But one key reason is because you guys are a living example of the importance of a key factor for success that has been highlighted on the podcast before. And that's a solid support system when we're in the process of making significant changes in our lives. So you're husband and wife, and you've experienced what some might consider as rock bottom from a health perspective. And you've put in the hard work together to completely change your collective story. And I'm really thrilled to have you here, like I said. So I'd like to go back and get the beginnings of that story and understand the foundation for your journey together. So, Mark, you and Kim met in college at the University of Michigan. Kim was a self-described vegetarian at the time. And
Right?
Mark, you were a 6'2", 305-pound carnivore, right guard. You were right guard for the Wolverines. And now, correct me if I don't have my facts straight. You were not just any football player. You were part of 3 Rose Bowl teams, 1 Hall of Fame Bowl team, and that was all under legendary coach Bo Schembechler. So
That is correct.
Yeah.
That
So
is correct.
what was it like to play for him?
You know what? All the guys on the team, really, he was like our second father. And really, I did. My mother was my rock. You know, my dad left and divorced when we were very young, so my mother was our rock and who kept our family together. But basically, he was a father figure to us. I mean, it was really, really cool having that experience to play for Michigan, coming into that stadium, over 100,000 people every home game, and just having him, you know, that legend that had been so successful in his coaching career. But we knew that it was somewhat. You know, I never was in the armed forces or military, but I envisioned it something similar in the sense that it was his way. This is the way you did things. We did things right. We did them by the book, and we didn't cheat to get there, right? So we did all the right things. We weren't doing steroids and all these other things that, you know, you'd heard some of the other groups. We were frequently tested for that. And we were going to win, and we were going to win the right way. But it was absolutely phenomenal to play for him. You know, pre-game, he would get you so hyped up, you just want to run out there and just rip someone's head off. I mean, it's an amazing experience, but very, very cool, and very honored and fortunate to have had that opportunity.
That sounds wonderful. I can't even imagine what the adrenaline must feel like when you're walking out on that field in front of an entire crowd, and especially at the level of play that you guys were at that point. It's probably pretty incredible.
Yeah, you know, Craig, the very first time I ran out there was against Oregon State, my freshman year. You know, again, over 100,000 plus fans in the stadium, and your adrenaline is so hyped up. When you run out of that stadium, it's hard to describe, but the only way I can describe it is you feel like you're just floating. As you start to run out that tunnel and the crowd is going crazy, and you jump up and touch that banner, you just feel like you're floating. You can't even really hear the crowd. You're just it's just such an adrenaline rush and an awesome feeling.
Yeah, so you go from this 3-4 year period of being on this massive adrenaline high and kind of sitting on top of the world. But after you graduated from college and the football chapter came to a close, you started to head down a pretty dangerous path with your health that other members of your family, including your mom and your siblings, were already on. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about your mom and what she was dealing with at that time from a health perspective, because it really sets the stage for everything that you're doing present day. So what was going on with your mom at that time?
Yeah, so my mom, when I was in college, she had already been diabetic for many years. In fact, ever since I was a little kid, Craig, I remember my mother popping pills for diabetes. As the years went on, of course, it only got worse. But ever since I was a little kid, I remember my mother taking pills for diabetes. And so, you know, as the years progressed, slowly I started to see my other siblings. Hey, you're diabetic. Hey, you know, I come from a big Mexican family. There were 8 children that my mother had. And every one of us has battled with diabetes with the exception of my sister, Jill. So, again, diabetes was no stranger to me. I mean, I didn't have it. It was strange in the sense that I didn't have it. However, my mother and many other siblings were already had already been dealing with diabetes at that point. So I was used to the medicines, and you know, then along with the diabetes, you get the high blood pressure, cholesterol. So she was ill in my time at Michigan, and She wasn't to the point where she needed transplants or anything like that yet, but that was something coming down the road. But no stranger to diabetes, and she fought with it for 33 years.
Yeah, I don't want you to underplay either the impact that this has had on your family, because you gently touched upon the fact that your siblings were also impacted by diabetes as well. Maybe you can quickly run down, if you don't mind, just what was happening with them as well, or what has happened with them.
Sure. So let me, if we give you just from today going back and looking at all my family. So my mother was diabetic for 33 years. She had a heart attack. She had a kidney transplant. She was legally blind. She did dialysis for many, many years. And ultimately, she needed a double bypass, which she never recovered from, and passed at the young age of 61. When I look at my oldest brother, David was diabetic for approximately a decade. He had a 9-month bout with pancreatic cancer and did not survive. He passed at the young age of 41. My twin brother, Joe's had a heart attack. He's been diabetic for 16, 17 years, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, many medications. My little sister, Sandra, she's 2 years younger than us. She's approximately 47 years old. Sandra has diabetes, a couple insulin shots a day, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, multiple medications. You look at my oldest sister, Carol. She was diabetic for a few years and ultimately saw what Kim and I were doing here and the results we were getting. So she changed some of the food she was eating and then was able to get off her metformin. So that was a really, really good win. And then, lastly, my little brother, Martin. Martin is 44 years old this year. He was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 13 or 14 years old. Martin has had he's had a pancreas and kidney transplant. He's legally blind. He does dialysis 3 times a week. He's had his right leg amputated. He's had, just recently, May 18th, I think it was, a little over a month ago, he just had half of his thyroid removed because they had 3 nodules on it, which they believed to be cancer. So he takes 25 medications every single day. And so, unfortunately, my little brother, and he's, he helps us promote this, saying, hey, if I can scare the shit, excuse my language, if I can scare the shit out of somebody into, steering them to eat healthier and be healthier, then I want to do it. So he allows us to put pictures of his amputations and share his story so that people can understand what diabetes ultimately will do to your body and the long-term effects of having this and not dealing with this terrible disease.
So what do you think is the common thread? Look, your entire family has been impacted in one way or another from diabetes or related issues and complications associated with diabetes. What is the common thread that kind of runs through this all? Do you think it's nature? Do you think it's nurture? Do you think it's a predetermined destiny? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny you ask that because I did think growing up, Craig, with my whole family, seeing them sick with diabetes and ultimately obtaining other chronic conditions, I thought, hey, I read the statistics. Hey, Hispanics have a high rate of diabetes. I'm Hispanic. My whole family has diabetes with the exception of, one sister. So I grew up believing that it was in my genes. It was in my fate. There's not much I could do about this. That's just genetic. I can't do anything about this. We just need to prepare for it. And that's what I had believed. Kim and I actually both, we talk about it now. That's what we thought was our destiny and our future. And so I really give her a lot of credit for even, I guess my family was already starting to get sick when I met her, but then it just, as the years progressed, it got worse. But I really thought that this was just something I had to deal with. I couldn't control it. Diabetes, so I'm going to deal with it the rest of my life. And to have this turnaround, once, we had tried everything, Craig. I had tried to count carbs, count calories, portion control, exercise more, eat less, tried all these different tactics that we still hear about today. And while I may have lost a little weight, maybe felt a little better, I was still sick. I was still taking the medication. So yes, I felt, when I looked at myself, hey, you lost 10 pounds, you lost 20 pounds, I'm looking thinner, I look better. Okay, it gives you a confidence boost. However, I'm still sick. I'm still taking the meds. It wasn't until we fixed the food that we really realized that this doesn't have to be our destiny. This doesn't have to be our future. And that we, once we harness that power and realize that, Kim and I, we said we got to tell the world, we got to tell any and everybody that's willing to listen, that is willing to take a stab at this, that your health, yes, genetics are important and they play a role, but it's a lot smaller role than people once thought. Sure. At least that's what the studies show more and more, right? So it's what we're doing every day that ultimately is going to determine how healthy or unhealthy we're going to be.
Yeah, I think that's great, and there's no doubt that the support mechanism that you have in place there has been critical for success for your entire family. Now, Kim, you can answer this question for me, I think. Do you think maybe if we take a look back in history at Mark's situation, Mark's family situation, what do you think would have been necessary at the beginning to maybe prevent or minimize the unfortunate outcomes that they experienced? Do you think it's maybe an education component? Do you think it's a motivation component? What do you think they could have used early on that would have helped them?
I think more information would have helped tremendously. And the internet is really what helped me. Once we saw Forks Over Knives and discovered Dr. Barnard's book about reversing diabetes, we used those as resources. And then I got online and did a lot of research. And having that information is what sent us down the right path. So I think if they had had the right information, some of them would have made changes for the better. I know not everybody is going to do this 100%, but people should at least have the information and have the ability to make that choice.
Yep.
So getting the information is key.
That's definitely a foundation, I think, for making appropriate decisions is the education piece. So let's go back. Let's go back a little bit, Kim, because when you were in college, as I said in the introduction, you were a vegetarian at that point. Was that something that
I was?
Was that something that was part of your family network mesh there, or was it something that you decided on your own? How did that come about?
I decided that on my own. It really came from eating in dining halls at the dorms. I saw that they had plenty of other choices besides meat. The meat they had wasn't that wonderful, and there were other things like that I hadn't tried before, like baked squash, and they had a huge salad bar. And I was eating dairy at that point. I wasn't vegan. I was vegetarian, so I ate a lot of dairy, but it was really the dorm food and the choices there that prompted me to go vegetarian. And Ann Arbor is conducive to that, so that helped being in that city too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys were married shortly after college, and I'm guessing at that point the real world starts to take over, work starts to take over, and like the rest of us, a good portion of us, I'd say, you both started kind of that long, slow walk into less healthy behaviors because time becomes a factor and work becomes a factor, et cetera. Kim, you even started eating meat again, from what I understand, correct?
I did, yeah. I didn't have much support as a vegetarian. None of my friends were vegetarian. Nobody in my family was. But I did get off track. I began to be told from other people that I needed to eat meat for protein and iron, and I got off track, unfortunately. I didn't have the right information, and I didn't know anybody else who ate the way I did, so I slid back into being omnivore.
And it probably didn't help that she met me, Craig, too, right?
Well, that's actually, that's the next question. So, Mark, what was your typical daily food intake like? Because you came off of, you were a football player, you had a huge calorie intake, I'm guessing. You ate tons of meat for quote unquote your protein intake. What was your diet like at that point?
Yeah, I mean, when I look back to, at U of M, we had training, what they call training tables. So we would have, after practice, we'd walk into these conference rooms that's set aside where we eat dinner, and you literally have all the meat. I mean, just steaks and all this meat and cheese. And I mean, it was, I'd go and I'd have a couple of steaks, no problem, maybe a little bit of veggies, but I'm focused on the steak and really, from my perspective, looking back now, all the wrong foods, right? But yeah, I mean, I was eating a ton of food, as much as you wanted. Of course, being a lineman, we're out there, well, being on the team, I guess, you're out there exercising every day, a lot of rigorous exercise daily. So you could eat as much as you want, and the weight would, pretty much stay there. Of course, you're hitting the gym and exercising as well. But the bottom line, it was It was huge, the amount of foods I would eat. And actually, what's ironic, Craig, is if I talk to people today, I still eat a lot of food. I mean, I'll eat 4, 5, 6 meals a day, and they're like, "You're gonna eat again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm hungry," but I'm eating all the right foods, right? So I still eat a good chunk of food, not nearly the amount of calories, right? Because I'm eating all the fruits and vegetables and beans and grains. I'm not eating all that high saturated fat, cholesterol-laden foods anymore. So,
sure. So after eating like a lineman basically for a long period of time, your health starts to deteriorate, and you start to follow down that same path that your mom and your siblings were on. And I was hoping that maybe you can kind of paint a picture for us of what your health looked like at that point in time, right after you graduate college, and you're kind of at your, I guess for lack of a better word, your unhealthiest to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, of course, during college, 300 pounds, I'm working out like crazy. I'm exercising like crazy. I'm eating a lot of food, but I look pretty good. I mean, I had a little belly on me, but I was a big guy at 305 pounds. So about 7 years, it's funny, we show in some of these slides, and when I give my presentations, I show a picture of 7 years out of college. And my daughter's 3 or 4 years old, but I'm 280 pounds. And my belly is a lot bigger. My face is a lot fatter. I'm still continuing to eat like a football player, but I'm certainly not working out like one. So you can see my body transforming in that photo, and that's 1997. So about 7 years. I graduated in 1990, and then we fast forwarded again to 2011. Now I'm about 260 pounds. But it's at this point when I'm taking all my insulin shots, I'm taking 2 diabetes pills, high blood pressure pills, high cholesterol. So I just try to show the folks, hey, look, here's 1990 in my uniform. Here's 7 years out of college. Here we go to 2011, and I'm on all these medications. I've been sick for a decade. And then we show them 3 months after adopting a whole food, plant-based lifestyle, what the effects were and how, I lost 50 pounds in 3 months. And that was, so it was March of 2012 that Kim and I were 3 months into this lifestyle. I dropped 50 pounds. I got to 210 pounds, which is what I weigh today. I mean, that weight has been stable, just up or down a few pounds for over 5 years now. And what I weigh today is what I weighed in 7th grade. I was 13 years old the last time I weighed this much.
You know what I really love about what you guys are putting out there, and I'm going to make sure that there's links in the show notes also, is that on your website, you share actually all the details of your blood workup historically, so that anybody can actually see what you were looking at and what your doctors were looking at that period of time. And you were on a lot of medications, and aside from the diabetes medications and the high blood pressure, there were other health-related issues that you were dealing with at that time. Now, Kim, you're watching Mark kind of spiral into this unhealthy pattern here, and this poor nutrition continues, and the medications and the various kind of chronic illnesses that we're told we have to manage for the rest of our lives. What's going on through your mind at that period in time?
Oh, I felt like there was a huge storm headed our way, and that he might go down the same road that I saw his family members go down. So it was a sad situation, really. We were preparing for the worst and hoping things would be okay. And I felt like that was our destiny, that it was in his genes and it was just going to be part of our life, and we had to do the best we could of it. So once we discovered how much power we have, it was liberating, and it really changed our outlook on life. It changed our ideas about the future and what the future might hold for us, and it affected our whole family. It was wonderful, a wonderful discovery, and very empowering.
And what's really, I'm sorry,
no, that's okay. I didn't mean to
interrupt, but Craig, the one very cool thing that we try to always touch on too is, I get it. I had the dramatic story with all these conditions and reversed it all and off all my meds, but Kim did not have any of these conditions. And guess what? By her, because, she is my rock. She is what keeps us in the family and everybody moving in the right direction, does a lot of research and studying for us. But she lost weight. Once she started eating this way too, even though she ate healthier than I ever did, because she didn't eat a ton of meat. She'd have some, but a lot of fruits and veggies and things of that nature. And we would argue, and not only her, but even my daughter, Mark, stop going to McDonald's, start going to all these fast food restaurants. And I would go every morning. I'm getting breakfast, and sometimes I'm doing lunch, and then sometimes even dinner. But the bottom line is the great message here too is, and we always try to tout this, is Kim was not sick, but guess what? She lost weight. Hair got thicker, nails got stronger, complexion got better. I mean, everything around her improved as well. So the story is, you don't have to be designated with a chronic condition to improve your health and hopefully expand, the quality of the years and the quality of your life.
That's such a great point, because oftentimes it might be one spouse or the other that might be dealing with a chronic condition, but both of them can truly benefit. The entire family, as you mentioned, can truly benefit from some very simple changes in diet and nutrition, etc. So did you guys all of a sudden one day, and I want to understand kind of the rock bottom point also, but did you all of a sudden one day just throw all the meat out of the house and say, that's it, and your entire life changed within a 24-hour period, or was it a gradual change over time? Kim, maybe you can answer that question.
Sure. It really happened when we watched the documentary Forks Over Knives. We watched that. As we're watching it, I was thinking, I really wish Mark would do this, but he just won't. He's a meat and potatoes guy. So when it was over, I looked at him and he said, I want to try this. And I was like, I got so excited. So I said, we're doing this starting now, cold turkey, because I wanted to do it before he changed his mind. And we didn't get everything out of the house, though, because at that point, our teenage son was still living at home, and because of his age, I wasn't going to force it on him. I think if he had been a young child, I would have just done it. But because he was a teenager and driving and all that, I didn't force it on our son. So we did still have meat in the house for him. But yeah, we did it cold turkey starting that day.
December 3rd, 2011. I mean, that's my second birthday. That's the day we realized that the power was in our hands, not in anyone else's, right? What we control, our future, our destiny, our health, for the most part.
And just as a side note, our son did come around. He's almost vegan. Once in a while, he has a little bit of dairy, mostly like if he's out with friends and has pizza. But for the most part, he eats the way we do.
Yeah,
so
and our daughter's,
it took a while, but
and our daughter's 100% on board.
Yes,
so slowly but surely. And what's cool with that too, Craig, is our daughter. She had, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but she had just great skin right here. She's in high school, then she goes off to U of M, and once she's there, slowly but surely, acne starts to develop. And we're sitting here going, well, what's going on? What changed? You just went to Ann Arbor. I mean, but. As the years go on, I mean, she went to see dermatologists and had gone to see different doctors, etc. And ultimately, what she found out is it's the dairy. The dairy is causing. She was eating a lot more yogurt, a lot of these different foods in there, right?
Right. Yeah.
And her skin got to the point where she had acne, kind of pretty bad. And ultimately, with this diet, we showed her some information. She cut out the dairy. And then she went so far as to cut out a lot of the oils, and it just improved even more. So now she's back to having a clear complexion and just loving life. And our son, too, he had some digestive issues.
Cutting out dairy helped his digestive issues, too. So
yeah, I mean, we were taking him to get berry enema tests. I mean, he was having problems. He was constipated a lot, etc. And changing the food fixed him, too. It's just amazing.
Well, food truly is medicine. There's no doubt.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So Kim, maybe you can tell me now, what does a typical day of food look like for you guys?
Typically for breakfast, Mark makes his own oatmeal. He's very good at making a few things, and oatmeal is one of his specialties. So he has that with fruit and nuts. I usually have tea or coffee and toast and fruit. For lunch, we have things like veggie sandwiches or veggie wraps, soup and salad. And then for dinner, we have a lot of potatoes. We have like black bean chili and sweet potatoes, pasta with red sauce and green beans. That's one of my favorites.
Tacos, veggie fajitas.
Yeah.
I mean, just there's it's endless. I mean, the amount of recipes that are out there, Craig, and that's the other thing we try to tell people is, look, you can all the fruits, veggies, beans, grains you can think of in any combination. I mean, it's phenomenal how this new world opens up your eyes to all of these foods that before kale was just a little thing, a little piece of lettuce,
If we got a deli tray, there was some kale decorating the side, and we were like, what's that? Well, I don't know. I don't think we should eat it. Now we love kale.
Yeah.
That's so
amazing.
Fun. So there's two topics that I'd love for you guys to share your thoughts on. The first one is the cost associated with a plant-based diet, and the second being access to healthy foods. I think these are two very real areas of resistance for a lot of people. So maybe we can start with the financial component of this. Have you found that the overall cost for your plant-based diet is any different than eating the way you used to? More or less? What do you think how do finances pan out?
I think it costs less to eat this way. We eat a lot more foods that are inexpensive, like beans and rice and whole grains and oatmeal. We don't eat a lot of packaged foods that cost more money. And we don't obviously eat meat or dairy, which can be pricey too. So I find we spend less on groceries.
Yeah, and I would agree. Like she said, the beans, the potatoes, the rice, the pastas, I mean, a lot of the fruits and veggies. And, we get asked this a lot about the organic side of stuff, Craig, and certainly, Kim has this motto, good, better, best, and you may have heard it out there too, but we try to tell people, look, just do the best you can every time you can. I know that some people get all hung up on GMOs, and I understand the concern and the need, but every one of us just needs to do the best that we can. We need to cut out the foods that are full of cholesterol, saturated fat, IGF-1, TMAO, all the craziness that comes wrapped in these animal foods, and we just need to focus on the foods that are full of fiber, antioxidants, phytonutrients, all of the great stuff that will help our bodies thrive. And I do think we find ourselves going to the store a little more because, the food, if it's in a box and it lasts for 2 or 3 months, that's not real food, right? So our real food, it does go bad. We try to use everything we can, but go to the store a little bit more, but I think overall the costs are down. We were in the store just last week, and I saw this pack of bacon, and it saddens me to see when I'm going into the food store, seeing all these animals and how they're packaged. But a pack of bacon was over $6. And I'm saying, are you kidding me? $6 for this one pack? And I feel terrible for the fact that it's even, in that store. But that's fruits and vegetables, beans, potatoes, grains, very cheap.
And then if you consider the money we save on medicine.
The medical costs.
Yeah.
No more I go to the doctor once a year where I used to go 4 times a year before. All the medications. We've estimated that we've saved approximately $15,000 over these last 5+ years so far. So just on medications. So how big saving.
So how that echoes a lot of the thoughts that I hear from others as well who switched over to a plant-based diet. How do you address the second point? Because look, you're living up in Michigan. There's seasonality, right? You might not get fresh fruits and vegetables necessarily out of your own backyard. How do you address the belief that eating a plant-based diet is too not accessible enough necessarily for someone if the food is not there?
I think that frozen fruits and vegetables are very nutritious and a good option. So if you live somewhere where you don't have access to freshly grown produce, there's nothing wrong with frozen. Those are good options.
Yeah, and I also think too, Craig, when we talk to people about how we eat and what we eat, and Kim and I don't know if you know this or not, but we're Food for Life instructors through the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. So we teach people how to live this way. We went to Washington, D.C. to PCRM back in 2015, and we took their course to become certified Food for Life instructors. So we teach people here, Dr. Barnard's program, on how, and it's the exact same program that I followed, that we did, that was able to make us healthy and now live the great life that we do. But we do the majority of our shopping at Meijer, which is a local, it's kind of like a Kroger, I guess, maybe a little bigger than that, but it's the Meijer. We also we go to Aldi quite a bit. And believe it or not, they have more and more organic stuff hitting their shelves all the time. And we also do some shopping at Kroger, and that's where we buy the majority. Yes, we go to we don't have a Whole Foods close to us. We don't have a Trader Joe's close to us. And we do visit those stores as well, but they're not as convenient and local to us. But you can go into just about any grocery store and you can pick the right foods. If they have the fruits and vegetables and beans and potatoes and grains, you can do, and this is what we try to help people understand, you can buy just about everything you need right there. And again, they may not have as many non-GMO, et cetera, but it's all right there in the store. You just need to, they talk about avoiding kind of a lot of the middle aisles, right? Go to the produce section and use the perimeter of that store and not so much the middle, because that's where all the boxed, processed, much of the crap is, right?
Sure. Your healthy habits now.
I think that, of course, ever since I was in 5th grade, I started playing football, and my whole, I grew up in Texas, and when you grow up in Texas, the dream playing football, if you were played that sport, the dream in Texas was to one day play for the Dallas Cowboys. And I know people cringe when they hear me say
I'm sorry. I'm a Giants fan. I'm sorry.
So I get that, right? But growing up in Texas, man, you're a Cowboys fan. And I know we had the Houston Oilers there too. Now I'm dating myself. Oilers, they're not even called that anymore. But the bottom line is that was the dream. That was the ultimate goal, right? So since 5th grade, that's what I was doing. And I think, it does. There is a mental toughness side to it, but I think it's what I learned was don't give up, never give up, right? It's never too late. We need to continue to try and look towards that's going to make, and most kids have played, t-ball or soccer or tennis or whatever, right? And so I think ultimately what can help people is if we just stick to that and say, you know what, I need to do this. I need to take that attitude of I can do this, I can win, I can succeed in this health realm, right? Where if you look around at America, so many people are sick. I mean, the statistics are only getting worse. So I think if people can kind of just look to that and try to use that as a tool to help them get to where they need to be, and think about, I try to think about my future. One of the things that Kim and I, as we were going through this, and I look at my future and I'm looking at my children and my grandchildren who I've not even met yet, but I want to be around for them. And I don't want to be in a nursing home stroked out somewhere. I want to be out there kicking the soccer ball, throwing the baseball, throwing the football, and enjoying life with them, as opposed to them coming to see me. Unfortunately, my grandmother had a stroke, and she lived in a nursing home for a little over 20 years. She couldn't speak. The right side of her body was somewhat paralyzed. She could walk with a walker, but the bottom line is, I don't want to live the last 20 years of my life in a nursing home having people to come and see me when I can't even communicate very well.
Now, now anybody who we're talking here a little bit about intrinsic and extrinsic motivators, and it sounds like you have a little bit of both to help you stay on the path and the healthy path, and it sounds like the entire family has that. But what you alluded to earlier, and not really alluded to, you actually said that Kim really is the center of what everything that's going on there in terms of keeping everybody on track. Now, Kim, do you find yourself being the coach for Mark now? You've taken over that Bo Schembechler role?
Yeah, I think early on that was my role more than it is now. Now we're just kind of coasting and we both know what to do. In the beginning, I was the one who really searched out the information and tried to find recipes that would appeal to him. And I think that was the big role I played, was in finding foods that he would enjoy so that he would stick with it. And then, when he would be sort of set free out in the world and I wasn't around, I tried to give him ideas about what he could get at restaurants and what I'd pack. I still pack him lunches for work so that he won't wander off and get involved in eating foods that might set him off the track.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Mark? Do you think that was?
Yeah, absolutely. True? I know Kim, even to this day, Craig, she helps all of us, like I said, still researching. And a lot of times I have to, hey, what was that? What did they find out about this ingredient, or what did we know about? And she really does a great job of keeping us in line and in track. And What's amazing, and I don't want to go off too far, but once we went down this path and we did it for health reasons, and our health improved so dramatically, so quickly. But ultimately, what your eyes and the blinders come off, and you start to see the devastation that we're causing to our planet, and you start to see the devastation of these poor animals, and you sit here. So I think there's a little mental adjustment too that happens in this, Craig, and that I don't want to contribute to that. I love our dog, our cats, or the animals that we have, and I see people getting so frustrated on Facebook about how in certain countries they're killing dogs and they're serving up as meat and tacos and they're eating them. And I sit here and I go, okay, well, what about the pig and the cow and the chicken, right? Why is that any different? And how is that any different? Why? And I get it. There's different customs in different countries. And so I understand that piece. But if you're compassionate about dogs and cats, you should also have that same compassion for cows, pigs, and chickens. And again, you look at the factory farming and all the devastation that's causing across the globe for all of us, for every single one of us. It's going to have dramatic impact unless we all try to make a little change. So I know they say never. I don't ever foresee myself ever willingly, knowingly putting animal products in my body. So I do have to watch the sweets sometimes because, that's the other piece. We talk to people, and I know plenty of vegans that are not the healthiest. I mean, when you look at them, you would not look at them and say, hey, that's a healthy individual. They're eating Oreos and a bunch of fried foods, French fries, and they're drinking a lot of beer. And those are not health promoting foods, and those are not going to, they're not going to help you establish or get to the health goals that one may be trying to achieve.
Sure. So Kim, you and Mark decided to take all this newfound information and the success that you've experienced through changing your lifestyle completely, and you turned it into this nonprofit that is known as Chickpea Bean. And I think that's kind of your nicknames as well, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yes, okay. I'm Chickpea because I'm a chick, and Mark is Bean because he loves beans.
And I'm Mexican, yes.
Very
so
good.
Chickpea, it's the food that cured us, right? And so that's why we figured. And really, Kim, yeah. So it was a lot of thought went into the name, and I'm Bean. Some people would just call me Bean, and then, hey, where's Chickpea?
Yeah.
So we get called by that as well.
That's great. So Kim, maybe you can share a little bit of the story of really what was the catalyst to put this together. You're doing this inside of your own family, and that's super important, but now you're reaching out beyond the four walls of your own home, and you're trying to make an impact that's greater than just within inside of your home. So maybe you could tell me a little bit about that.
We felt that we had to let people know about the power of plant-based nutrition because there are so many people suffering. And, when somebody is ill, especially the parent of a family, it affects the entire family. It affects anybody who cares about that person. So we felt like we sort of had an obligation to share our story and to share the message about the power of plants because it has the potential to help people and to reduce a lot of suffering that's out there. And, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to let people know. And so we just are kind of taking care of our corner of the world here, letting people know as much as we can. And then if they want to give it a try, we support them and help them and become involved with we have meetings, 3-monthly meetings at our local library. And as Mark mentioned earlier, we do Food for Life classes so people can enroll in those if they want to. We're active on social media to spread the word and give people tips. And we have events once in a while. We just finished a big event in a city near here called Romeo, Michigan, where we did a health initiative and a 21-day vegan kickstart. And we used PCRM's program as a guide, but people went and they had some blood work done beforehand. Then we had over 100 people enroll. We were thrilled that we had so many. Romeo is a small town farming community north of here, and we were wondering if we'd get 10 people, 15 people. We had over 100 people register, and we were thrilled with that we had such a great response. And so they had blood work done before and after and saw the improvements. And now we're continuing on having events to keep them on track. So we're kind of doing a bunch of different things to spread the word and also to support people once they get the information.
That's so wonderful. And I would encourage anyone listening to go to your website because you do have a lot of really great articles, not only recipes, but informational articles. And as I said before, you also have Mark's kind of historical blood test there, which numbers don't lie. They don't. And you can see how over time, just the dramatic improvement that he experienced from a health perspective. You know, the weight loss pictures are really nice, and that's great to see, and it definitely makes us healthier. But the underlying, as you said before, there's a lot of vegans who are very, very unhealthy. They might look great on the outside, but on the inside, it's not such a good picture, right? So, yeah, I would encourage anybody to take a look at your website. I know that the events are listed on there as well, and I'll make sure that is also shared in the show notes as well. So, Mark, just shifting gears just a little bit, outside of your education and the information you've gained regarding your nutrition now, what is the best piece of advice anyone has ever given you?
Best piece of advice. I've had a bunch of good advice. So I'm trying to think of what's the best one.
You told me one the other day. Do you want me to remind you?
Yeah, what did I tell you?
I think one of your coaches told you that you're never static. You never stay the same. You're either getting better.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm thinking back to, and I'm going back to the coaches and the mentors, Craig. But so Bo used to tell us, you get better or you get worse, but you don't stay the same, right? So in other words, you got to continue to look for ways to try and improve. I also remember one of our high school coaches, he gave a quote that said, what you give is gone, but what you hold back is lost forever, right? So in other words, give it your best every day. We need to try. And because if you're sitting there procrastinating, holding back, you're never going to get to that place where hopefully you can realize some just tremendous healthy benefits from doing this. But I really enjoy, I've had a lot of great mentors, and, even my wife here. I mean, I don't tout her enough or talk about her enough, but I really appreciate all that she does for me. And it came to light even more when I had one of my buddies here, Greg Skrebnick, that gentleman I tell you, former player at Michigan with me, went on to play in the NFL. But he was in town, and he was here for 3-4 days staying with us. And he spoke at our meeting, and he said, Mark's lucky because he has the Kim factor, right? Because Kim does most of the cooking. I mean, I do a little bit, but she really is my rock and helps keep everything in line here. And Greg, unfortunately, is divorced, so he's like, but Mark's got Kim there. He's like, I don't have a Kim factor, but I really appreciate all that Kim is doing, and so it's a lot of. I guess one piece of advice is just. If I had to, you mentioned what the lessons I've learned, but never underestimate the body's ability to heal itself if we feed it the right foods. And I think I heard, one of my friends tell me that, and I think if I could pass anything on, it's that. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how sick you are. If you give your body the ability to try and heal itself with food, and stop filling it with a lot of this, a lot of the junk food, a lot of the high-fat foods, you'll be amazed at what can happen.
I think that's a great place to put a pin in it, because that really nicely caps off everything that you guys talked about with me today. So where can everybody connect with you guys online? We have the website, right, which is chickpeaandbean.com, or is it .org?
That's right.
It's .com? Okay.
.com, yeah, and then we're on Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter, so it's all Chickpea and Bean. Pretty much, they can find us there. We're always posting a lot of great information from the doctors that we love and follow, that are plant-based, that have it's scientifically backed, and we hope that anyone listening gets inspired and knows that there's so much right in your control, right in front of you, that you can do to help your health, and don't. Like I said, don't underestimate the body's ability to heal itself. So
that's great.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'll make sure to have all of your details, social media links, website, along with a rundown of today's episode in the show notes. So Mark and Kim, Chickpea Bean. I'm not sure what to call you guys, but I'll call you Mark and Kim for now.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you both very much for sharing your story of inspiration and really the real world possibilities of transformation. You guys are doing amazing work, and I encourage anyone listening to look you up online and also share this podcast with someone who they might know who has type 2 or maybe even pre-diabetes, who might be questioning and searching for a healthier way to live. You guys have shown us all that having a better life is not only possible, but it's also a very high likelihood if we have the right information coupled with the right mindset, and super important, as we've pointed out continuously, the right support piece. It's awesome to see how you and your family history, how your family history didn't necessarily define your destiny when it comes to health and wellness. And I know it's not easy, but you guys literally changed the trajectory of your family's future. So congratulations on that. And thank you for your insights, your inspiration, and for all the positivity you're putting out into the world. Thank you.
Oh, likewise. Thank you,
Craig,
too, for what you're doing.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
It.
We'll definitely appreciate everything you're doing, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. So if you think Mark and Kim's story can help someone you love, please start by sending them to our website so they can listen to this amazing story of taking a challenge head on and turning it all around for the better. The link is thebravestlife.com/005, and you'll also find show notes there as well. We're also up on the iTunes store for download and for subscribing to the podcast. And finally, if you like what we're doing here and you'd like to help us make an impact on the world, please share your thoughts either by contacting me on our website, and that link is right on the homepage, or you can leave a review on iTunes. That will help others looking for inspiration, information, and community to find us easily. Thanks, everybody. I'm Craig. I appreciate you joining us, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Bravest Podcast.